Tonight we'll present the fourth and the last in a series of Meet the Candidate events, and I'm Gary Grotto, the executive editor of the Arizona Capital Times, a subsidiary of State Affairs. At this point, I'd like to thank the Arizona Clean Elections Commission for sponsoring these events. The Clean Elections Commission administers the Citizens Clean Elections Act, which voters passed in 1998. The act seeks to restore citizen participation and confidence in the political system, improve the integrity of the Arizona state government, and promote freedom of speech under the Arizona and U.S. constitutions. Now, to tell us more, I'd like to introduce Gina Roberts. She's the Voter Education Director of the Citizen Clean Election Commission. Good evening, Gina.
Hi, Gary. Thank you so much for having this event for the voters and for the candidates across the state. For our vote. A little bit more about clean elections. In addition to what Gary mentioned, we also serve as the state's nonpartisan voter education agency. So that essentially means that we are tasked with reaching voters across all of Arizona to provide you the information that you need to know about how to vote, how to get your ballot, where to go, what type of ID you need, but also what's on your ballot, learning about the candidates and the issues. And we're really happy and proud to sponsor the Meet the Candidates event this week because it's a great resource for you to get that introduction into, again, who's asking for your vote. Voting is well underway. The primary election is July 30th, and every registered voter in the state, including independents, you can vote in this election. And the reason why primaries are important is because they serve to nominate the partisan candidates that we want to see advance to the general election. So a little bit more about how do we learn about candidates? How do we know? How do we make our decisions about who we want to vote for? We don't always get the opportunity to meet candidates face to face. We don't get the chance to shake their hands sometimes. So this evening, we have a really great format for you to learn who they are, get a little bit more information about them and why they're running for office. And then if you need more information, you can always look to the voter education guide that Clean Elections mailed to every household with a registered voter in. It's got information on the candidates and their photographs, a 200-word statement for them, and their social media or website links. And then we also have our candidate debates, where if you want to see the candidates really get into the issues and talk about their positions, you can watch those debates on our website. So again, everything that you need to know during the voting process, whether again it's how to get your ballot or learn more about the candidates, you can visit azcleanelections.gov. And again, we're very proud to be a sponsor. Thank you again to the Arizona Capital Times for doing the Meet the Candidates events. Year over year, they become a really great resource for voters. So thank you for taking the time tonight so you can learn more and vote informed.
Right on. Thank you, Gina. And so just a little housekeeping before we begin. The way the format is tonight is we are going to bring the candidates out in groups in their districts, and this is a conversation, a Q&A if you must. This is not a debate, so we're going to ask the candidates to please refrain themselves if somebody says something that strikes a nerve with you. Like I said, people should be talking to their voters, and this is not a debate. And tonight we're going to do districts 25 to 30, and 25 is up next. And we have with us Representative Tim Dunn and Bill O'Leary.
How are you?
Good evening, Bill. Can you hear us? I'm sorry, can you hear us, Representative Dunn? Okay, Representative Dunn cannot hear us. Can you hear us now?
Okay, there you are. Got my audio back.
All right, great. Nothing like live television. So
That's right.
So anyway, welcome, gentlemen. And I'm just going to start out with the question that I've asked everybody. And I'll start out with Bill. And you go by Bill?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay, great. So you're running for the House as a Democrat.
Yes.
Why are you, tell us a little bit about yourself first and why you are running for the legislature.
Yeah, I live in Surprise, Arizona with my wife, Lynn, my daughter, Jennifer, and our cat, Oliver. I have had over 23 years experience in big business with the in the oil industry, in marketing. I've had over 20 years experience as well as a small business owner, and I'm currently a realtor. The reason why I'm running is that I want to make sure that we're taking care of all of our residents in Arizona. The legislature seems to, and from what I've seen, with the current leadership, they look to pass legislation for problems that don't exist, and they also pass legislation or try to pass legislation with the wrong solutions for the problems that do exist. When I get elected, I want to make sure that we're focused on the right solutions for the right problems. I want to solve problems, not symptoms.
All right. Thank you very much. And Representative Dunn, why do you want to go back? Or, I guess, are you termed out in the House, and is that why you're going to the Senate?
Yes,
want to
sir.
go to
And
the
thanks
Senate?
for having me, and thanks for doing this. Meet the candidates. Yeah, I'm term limited out. This will be my fourth term. I was appointed in 2018. Both Senator Kerr and myself are term limited out. I have a lot of work that I still want to do, water and other things that are very important to me. We're in a big drought, and we got a lot of water policy, and I just can't leave the legislature at this time. And with her being term limited out, I am compelled to continue to serve and go back to the Senate. Go to the Senate coming from the legislature. So that's my plan, and I've enjoyed being able to serve the legislative district, first 13 and now 25. Which, for those who don't know, he does from Yuma all the way to Festival, and it's a pretty big district, and it's a good district.
It doesn't seem like you've been in that long, but I guess time flies, right? I can remember when you got appointed. So, Representative Dunn, if you go back, I think you touched on it a little bit in your introduction there, but what are your priorities going to be if you get elected?
I want to just make sure that we represent the district and all of the district that we have, and we're very diverse. So water, like I said earlier, is priority. We've been working on some rural groundwater issues in negotiations with the governor on rural groundwater, which touches outside of majority of our district, but it's important for rural Arizona. We've been working on this last year on Harquahala and some other things that are specifically tied to Buckeye, and allowing the long-term solution for water. One of the other things, we'll continue to work on some healthcare issues that I've been working for the last 5 years on the DDD homes and the vulnerable adults. We've got some major legislation we can talk about that passed that is important, and we're going to continue some of those aspects, and just try to govern and just kind of make sure that we do what is right for our citizens. Our district is pretty diverse, and so if you're working on the details of what's going on from Yuma to Buckeye and Festival, military, ag, and the growth, then it really is working on all things for Arizona.
All right, Bill, what are going to be your priorities if you get elected?
Well, I definitely want to concentrate to start with education. The education in this state is very, very poor with respect to the amount of money that's being spent on public education. We're 49th in the nation on per capita spending. We need to invest in our kids. Our kids are our future, and we need to make sure that they have adequate teaching teachers. We have to make sure that we're hiring new teachers, that we're retaining the teachers that we have currently. We have to look at building schools as well. Also, I want to concentrate on protecting women's reproductive freedom. I want to make sure that we have accessible and affordable housing. And I want to make sure that we also work to make sure we protect our water supplies and that we prevent our water resources from being diminished.
And great segue, because that was my next question. So what do you think of the legislature's progress so far on groundwater management, and what more do you think should be done if there is more to be done?
Well, I think I don't think they've made very much progress. I think they need to do more to protect our aquifers from being polluted or contaminated, which hasn't really been done. They're not spending nearly enough money to do that. Also, what I understand is there's investment companies going down to places like Yuma, and they're buying up tracts of land as well. And what their hope is to separate those water rights from those lands and then sell those water rights off. That's certainly not protecting the resources that are part of the state that we need for agriculture in Yuma and other agricultural areas around the state. So we need to do a better job of that as well. I also heard that there was some talk of lowering with respect to the Groundwater Management Act, that some people think it's okay to have a 5 or 10 year water supply for building new homes and communities in Arizona. That's absolutely absurd. We need to strengthen that Groundwater Management Act and make sure we're getting to safe yields. We need to monitor what's coming out of these aquifers and make sure that we're also recouping that water and making sure that companies that use water clean that water to a standard that can then go back and recharge those aquifers as well.
Representative Dunn, you've been waist deep in water legislation. Sorry about the bad joke, but what do you think so far?
You know what? But water, it should be a bipartisan issue, and it always has, and we need to continue to work on that. We got to stop the noise from the outside, not necessarily from Bill. I'm just saying from our outside perspectives, from people that come in and don't think we're ever doing enough. I think Arizona has been the leader in groundwater management with when we did the AMAs, the 1980 groundwater code. We've had the model that came up last year that was showing that we were not going to be able to meet some of our 100-year supplies. We've been working around with several pieces of legislation in cooperation with the governor, getting things signed in specifically for Buckeye, using some of the 100-year water supply designations, being able to use the existing water in Buckeye Irrigation District. That's going to allow growth to grow where the water's at. I've been an advocate of growing where the water's at. When we have Yuma and the district, we want to make sure we keep the water on the river. We sell our water on the water rights in 90% of the lettuce in the country comes from Yuma because of our water. And we're going to continue to fight to keep that water there. We've done things with Harquahala and that groundwater. We're going to make sure that we back in 2021, we did some money. We were able to get money in the ADQ for putting in the rules for direct potable reuse. There was some noise that they're coming out with that. There was a press release last week on that coming out that started back in 2021 with legislation and negotiations in the budget with me and Ms. Griffin and the governor's office to get those next round of clean water, because that's going to be the next using that water. We're already putting it and re-injecting it around the water that's coming out of our treatment plants. So all these things are tied together to making sure we're continuing to do more with less. And we've done some ag to urban things that didn't quite get to the finish line. We've been extensive negotiations on Senate Bill 1221 on rural groundwater. That was your original question on. So if you get outside of our district, rural groundwater, we've had extensive negotiations with the governor's office. We kind of ran out of time. We're still having talks with them, still having meetings ongoing to try to do something that's, because we're in a drought and we know that we're trying to have three specific areas of the state that have issues with their groundwater, and we're trying to give another tool in the toolbox to allow the director of the department and or those citizens to move that forward. Lots of progress there. We just ran out of time during the session. Ongoing good conversations there, but continue to be the leader in our finite resources and moving that forward. And the growth is going to be in our district. Buckeye is growing, and we did a lot of things with the Harquahala. That water is going to be certain standards that get put into the CAP system and allowing private utilities to be able to use that water. The law was already there. Didn't change the law. We just allowed private utilities, which provide water to Verrado, other parts of the state. And so we allowed that to happen under strict rules. So a lot of good things going on, a lot of discussions, and water should be a bipartisan conversation always going forward. And
Representative, let's talk about the budget for a minute. 16.1 billion. Didn't seem like, there were people who were happy with it, people who were unhappy with it. How did you vote on it, and what are your thoughts on the budget that was just passed and signed?
I voted in favor of the budget. I was, I voted in favor of the last year's budget. We were in a budget shortfall. We spent more money on infrastructure, more things last year, so we had to claw back some of those things, and it's hard to do. As you're flattening out with the coming into the 2.5% flat tax, and then you actually a combination of the Biden inflation that is causing spending to go down. But I think we've got a great conservative budget that still allowed investments in the things that the governor wanted to do. I took more money out of the Water Infrastructure Finance Authority than I wanted. I wanted to, I've been advocating to get that full $1 billion in there. But I understand when you're in a this kind of economy that you're having to pick and choose the priorities. I think we made sure that we kept money there for the education. Do we have the overall amount of money that was spent in education is the same? Yes, the money that's going into ESAs is higher than projected, but the overall money that's going into education is there. Kept some of the money for the infrastructure, roads in the West Valley, Jackrabbit Road, I-10 widening, Yuma, Highway 95. Those are super things that were important for us. So we wanted to make sure we kept those things that are ready to be built now, and the things that we were going to be pushed off for future years. Let's have those savings and put those into future budgets. So I think all in all, I think under the situation we're in, I think it's a good budget that allowed both sides to get to move things forward and get those services that we need for our citizens so that they're not hurt.
Bill, would you have voted on the budget? And, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think the way the budget was done, I mean, they have to pass it, they get it done now, but I think there were some things in there that were wrong. I think they didn't spend enough on public education. That's where you get the best bang for your buck. And these ESAs are taking away a lot of the money that could have gone into public education that would have made a bigger impact on more families in Arizona. Instead, they chose to give the money to ESAs, and they continue to drain money out of public education. And we need to change that. We need to make the people that are receiving these accountable for it as well. This money that's going there is unaccountable, and it's been bleeding education dry. We need to change that.
All right, thanks. So we got about a minute and a half left. Bill, can you just give us a minute on why you should be elected?
Please elect me to the House. The reason is real simple. I will come to work every day to work on behalf of all Arizonans. I will work to make your education system better, to fund it properly so our kids can be a resource, and also to have a better life. I want to also make sure that we address the housing crisis in this state. Right now, the housing is unaffordable. In many places, there's very little to none being built. Rentals are too high, and to get access for housing for people that are young, it's just too expensive. There are a lot of ways in which we can work with stakeholders to make a big change and get an impact that's going to get housing much more affordable, increase the supply, get rent controls in some places, but also to build houses and so that single families in a way in which young people can afford to buy a house today. Also, I just want to make sure that people understand that I want to work to make sure that our water resources are protected as well, and that we have enough supply to go into the next century, well into the next century. Thank you.
Thank you,
Please
Bill.
vote for me.
And Representative Dunn?
Yeah, thanks again for having us on. I appreciate your vote to go into the Senate. I think that I'm a lifelong born in the district in Yuma, farming family. Family still farms. My son farms. We have 4 sport clubs, haircut franchises. So we have employees in Yuma County. We have employees in Buckeye and Goodyear. We understand what it takes to be signing the front side of the paycheck and make sure that we take care of our employees. We want to make sure that we have affordable housing. We agree on a lot of things. This is how we get there. Bill said a lot of good things about what we want to do for our district, and I agree. It's just about how we get there and make sure we focus on the future. And I think our district is very important. Our district is one of the things for growth, and I'm here to govern. I'm here not to play politics. I'm here to make sure that we stick up for the constituents, and I appreciate your vote.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. And next, best of luck to you both in your
Good night, Tim.
primaries. So we're going to be coming out with Legislative District 26, and we'll be back in 2 minutes. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Welcome back, and you're watching Meet the Candidates, and we have another group of candidates here from Legislative District 26, and I'm going to introduce them. First, we have Representative Quanta Cruz, who is trying to get elected to the House again, and Senator Flavio Bravo, going for the Senate. I can't keep up with all the chambers you've been to and back and forth, but I think you're in the Senate now, right?
Yes.
Okay. And we also have Victor Harris, a Republican, who's trying to be elected to the Senate. Welcome, folks. And so, Representative Cruz, you were appointed. Why do you want to go back?
You're right. And for the record, my name is Quante Cruz.
Quante. Okay, I'm sorry.
No worries. And I replaced Senator Bravo in the House after his appointment to the Senate. And I want to go back to keep doing the great job that we've been doing. We've been fighting for resources to bring back to LD 26. We all know some of the issues that our people face, our neighbors. Our neighbors are facing, rising home prices, lack of childcare, lack of before and after school care, lack of economic opportunity. We've been working on bringing apprenticeships to our district and different job training so that our neighbors can keep up with the cost of living. And so I am learning to be a politician. I always say that, but I am an informed neighbor, and I'm really excited about the great work we've done this past year, and look forward to continuing that work for another session and sessions to come.
All right, thank you. And can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Let people who don't know about you know who you are.
I'm a Union kid raised just outside of Detroit, Michigan. I moved to Arizona to attend Grand Canyon University. I attended GCU back in 2005. Just before that great recession that everyone talks about. As a student, I struggled with the cost of higher education, the cost of living. At one point, I was in school full time. I worked 2 full-time jobs, and I still couldn't keep up with rent. I was actually secretly living in my car under the parking garage of the law firm I worked at downtown. And so that experience and me trying to keep up with these rising home costs is what got me involved into politics and to being a community advocate, which is what led me to serve as a elected official. And so I am no stranger to adversity, but working really hard to take care of myself and my family, and fighting hard for the things that allow my neighbors to do the same.
Thank you, Representative Cruz. Senator Bravo, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to go back.
Thank you. Flavio Bravo. I'm a fifth generation Arizonan, born and raised in District 26. This is where my parents bought their first home, where my wife and I bought our first home, and where come next January, my wife will be raising a family together. So it was an honor 2 years ago to be elected to the State House of Representatives and to knock the same doors in the neighborhoods where I grew up. And the goal, I think, with my family always, my parents both worked, my father with the city of Phoenix for over 34 years, my mother with municipal courts around the valley as court interpreters, and they always wanted to provide the best education for my siblings and I, with the goal that we would come back, we would pay it forward. And I'm really proud to be able to do exactly that. What a wild ride it's been after first getting elected 2 years ago. Today I'm the Senate Judiciary Committee, Elections and Rules Committees, and even just in my first term in the Senate, I've been able to get multiple bills passed out of the House and Senate committees. I was able to work in a bipartisan way to ultimately get a bill signed into law by Governor Hobbs supporting youth with autism, and even was able to get a bill in the budget that supports and reforms teacher contracts so that our educators know with more time when their new position will be starting. They don't have to wait till the fall anymore. They would receive their contract dates in early spring. So in short, I want to return, with your support, because I do believe I've been effective, but there is so much more work to do and so much work to be done. I am on the board for the Democratic Legislative Campaign Committee, and so I am always working to help candidates across the state because I know how meaningful the next 2 years of Governor Hobbs' administration would be if we were in a Democratic majority. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harris, I thought you disappeared, but glad you made it back. So tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to get elected.
Okay. How I came to be here in Arizona is the military. I spent 20 years in the military, in the Air Force. I retired out at Luke Air Force Base. And I have a beautiful wife and 2 kids who are grown now. But also, I originally came from Oakland, California. That's where I was born and raised. And from there, I went to the military, and from there, I went to different parts of the country and also overseas. I spent some time in Germany, spent some time in Turkey, Incirlik Air Base there, and also I came back here and I worked for a short period of time as a police officer, and then from there I worked in Section 8 housing with the city of Phoenix, and I also worked with neighborhood services where I was a neighborhood inspector, and that's where I also retired from the city of Phoenix. One of the reasons why I'm running is I think this district has to be represented by not just Democrats but also Republicans. And so I think a couple of years ago when I was going down the ballot, and I realized, I said, hey, there's no Republicans running in this area. And they say, it's basically a blue area. And I'm the kind of guy that's not a good answer for me. So I checked into it and got involved in the LDs here and asked if I would run for Arizona State Senate for LD 26. And I said, sure, yeah, absolutely. So that's where I'm coming from. I see a lot of things in the area here. I've been living in my house for about 26 years in the same home, and I've seen a decline in what's going on around me, and and I think I would try to bring more emphasis on what's going on like say for instance 27th Avenue. 27th Avenue has a lot of prostitution going on, a lot of drugs going on, and I understand the Cactus Park is really trying to get that under control, but I feel that I can bring a lot. I can bring a lot more to Arizona than just being part of a community. So that's who I am. I'm part of a community. I'm not a politician, say right off the bat, but I'm just a concerned citizen who wants.
Mr. Harris, we got like 5 minutes left now, so I'd like to give everyone a fair amount of time. All right, thank you. Thank you. So I'll start with you, and if you could keep it succinct, that'd be great. If you get elected, we don't know how it's going to shake out, with the election, but it still may be a divided government when when they gavel in January. How would you, as a legislator, go about working in a divided government?
Well, I've always been a people person. I've always been able to get along with a lot of people, and a lot of people that disagree. Would I reach across the aisle? Absolutely. I have no problem to reach across the aisle and come up with ideas that will benefit all of Arizona, not just a part of Arizona. So,
Okay.
and so I'll just keep it short. So.
Okay. Thank you. Senator Bravo, how have you operated within the divided government, and how would you do it if you get elected?
Yes, thank you. I, from day one, have done my best to take a collaborative approach, and I think that's paid off because the relationships even that I built in those first 4 to 5 months in the House, earlier this year serving in the Senate Judiciary Committee, there was a bill that Speaker Pro Tem Grantham had been working on, and when it came to the Senate Judiciary Committee, we both agreed it wasn't ready. And our staff and our legal counsel, the ACLU, all asked, they said, does anybody know Speaker Grantham? And I said, I worked with him last session. And they said, would you be able to work with him on some proposed amendments to make this bill that protects minors from sexual abuse and from exploitation in order to get this to the finish line? And I said, absolutely. I presented all the amendments to him. He accepted virtually all of them. I spoke with the Senate Dem Caucus, was able to get the votes, and then it ended up passing in both chambers, and Governor Hobbs signed the law. So, that's just one example of me willing to meet with Republican leadership, but for the betterment of the state. The reason that issue actually mattered so much to me is in District 26, 50% of the population are under the age of 29. So we have a lot of youth, a lot of families. And when it comes to creating necessary protections for them, it's not just a partisan issue, right? It's a bipartisan issue.
All right, thank you. Representative Cruz.
Thank you. I love this question. I didn't share, but I sit on the Ways and Means Committee and the Regulatory Affairs Committee. And I've worked in the bipartisan way from day one. I have an open door policy and I live my life the way I was taught to, which is to treat people like you want to be treated, right? And that's with dignity and respect. I've been able to meet with colleagues across the aisle, and I was even able to work with my colleagues to get uh, bipartisan work done on a bill that was signed by Governor Hobbs. I'm in the real estate industry. I appraise homes for a living. And so myself and Representative Hendricks worked together to amend an idea that he had, and it ended up being SB 1042 that the governor signed. And I'm really proud of the work that I've been able to do. Regardless of it being a divided government, I'm a minister, so we're all God's children. That's my worldview. And so I look at everyone as extended human family. And I've had no problems working in a bipartisan manner in the ledge this past session and last session as well.
Thank you. And we got about a minute left, so if each of you could just give us a minute of why you should be elected. Let's start with you, Representative Cruz.
Sure. I believe that a legislator is a informed community member who wants to give their gifts and talents and sometimes funds for the betterment of community and moving forward towards solutions and being a good listener. And so I believe that I incorporate all those things. I'm a self-proclaimed neighborhood auntie, and I look out for my neighbors, whether I'm at the ledge or at the grocery store. I have enjoyed my time there. I am definitely a policy nerd and have done well as a legislator. And I ask for the support of my neighbors sending me back, and for their grace as I learned to be a politician, because it is definitely something that you have to learn. But I've done well thus far, and I'm looking forward to sessions to come.
Thank you, Representative Cruz. Mr. Harris.
Yes. I think I am I think I'm ready to embark on this new adventure, and this new adventure. I'm kind of I am a guy that likes lower taxes. I'm a guy that likes to lower this burden that we have of interest rates. I want to support our veterans in a way that we can reach out to them even more. And I'm a big proponent of securing the border. It doesn't look like our governor wants to secure the border, and I'm a big advocate of that. I'm all for immigration, legal immigration. I'm all for it. You come here the right way, just like everyone before everyone else. But just to come across the border and to be here, it's just not enough. It needs to be done the right way. So I'm here to lower the cost of housing, living, Arizona water protection, and all of that. So yes, I think I'm ready to embark on this adventure to help the people of Arizona and help people specifically in LD 26. And so my name is Vic Harris. I'm running for Arizona State Senate, and I would be honored to earn your vote.
Right on. Thank you, sir. And Senator, you got 1 minute in you?
Yes, thank you. When I was first elected in 2022 and then appointed to the state senate by the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors in 2023, what I told them is my main goal was to bring stability to the district. a lot of movement. We right, with previous legislators in this district coming in, leaving, and I told them they can count on me. You know, they said, where do you see yourself for 5 years? And I said, hopefully in the state Senate. I have brought stability, I have brought collaboration, but also responsible leadership. I have been one of the most vocal leaders opposing harmful bills that damage the state's reputation, like HCR 2060, that won't do anything to secure the border. And I understand really it's taking a stance on those bills that have brought me endorsements from our Arizona law enforcement community and from the Arizona Chamber of Commerce, because there are stakeholders across our state that really value the growth and development we're seeing here, and they don't care for the extremism. And so I ask for your support because I'm committed to bringing people together, to fighting these simple proposed solutions to very complex problems. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, and thank you to our three candidates, Representative Quante Cruz, Mr. Victor Harris, and Senator Flavio Bravo. And we will be coming back with Legislative District 27 in about 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back. You're watching Meet the Candidates, and I'm Gary Grotto, the executive editor of the Arizona Capital Times. And we have with us in this segment Legislative District 27, and we have Deborah Howard, who is a Democrat running for the House, and Brian Morris, a Republican running for the House. Welcome aboard. And so let's just start with you, Deborah. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to run for the legislature, or why you want to be elected to the legislature.
Yeah, I was going to say running is a different story. So I am Deborah Howard, and my Arizona story begins in the mid 80s when my sister moved here with her family. And I was a single woman and had no children. And so I was the favored aunt, and I showed up every holiday, every vacation, and had watched both my nephews and Glendale grow up. And I now live here in the same house with my sister. Her children are grown and off living adult lives. And I moved here in 2017. And even though I had spent all of those years in between visiting my sister and her family, I had never been here in August. And I moved here in August of 2017, and it was unbearably hot. So I thought that was a ridiculous point of departure for me. But then in 2018, I was diagnosed with cancer. In February of 2019, my last cancer treatment was finished, and I realized that Arizona was a competitive state, and I wanted to do everything I possibly could to elect Democrats who shared my values. And so I got involved in helping flip the legislative races in competitive seats. And here I am these many years later as a candidate myself. So I want to be a representative. I want to represent this district because I think the residents here deserve representatives who actually listen to them and trust them when they vote. And I anticipate that I will be capable of doing that.
Great, thank you, Deborah. Brian, tell us who you are and why you want to be elected.
My name is Brian Morris. I'm my time in the district has been, I'm a second generation native. I was born and bred right here at 48th Avenue in Cactus with my attendance at Sweetwater Elementary, and I graduated from Moon Valley High School. So I've never left the district. I mean, that sounds horrible, but actually I love this area. I grew up in this area. I believe in this area. I own a company. We fix ugly pools. We employ several people, and we do a lot of work in the Glendale, Phoenix area. Over the years, we've garnered a relationship with law enforcement. We've been actually standing for supporting the police and supporting our officers that have been injured and killed in the line of duty. That relationship has garnered me the endorsements of Phoenix, Glendale, and Peoria, so all three cities that we cover, as well as the Arizona Police Association. I believe that we can make some big changes and that it starts right here at home. Everybody that is going to legislature likes to talk about the border and things like that, but there's a lot of issues right here in our district that matter to me most. And being from this district, I have been a neighbor, I have been a business owner, and I have been a resident of this district my entire life. So it's not just a matter of going into office, it's a matter of making sure that my future generations that I've brought in and the future generations of the people who live here have a wonderful home to live in, and that they care about the district and love the district as much as I do.
Great, thank you, Brian. So I'm going to take a question from the audience, and I'll start with you, Brian. What plans do you have to fully fund education?
So this is a very difficult question. Here's my background on that. Both my parents were school teachers. I grew up as a two-teacher household. Both my parents taught in the Glendale High School District. My dad taught at Moon Valley after he started at Cortez, Independence, and Moon Valley. My mom started at Apollo and then went to Cortez. So we have been in the education side of it for several years. When my mom passed away in '93, my dad remarried his high school sweetheart, who was the president of the Phoenix Union High School District for almost 10 years. So I come from a very deep-rooted background as far as the education system in our public school systems. However, I have also seen the decline of our public school systems. I am a big proponent of the ESA, also known as the backpack law, because it gives a lot more freedom to parents to allow them to determine and decide how their kids should be educated. The issue with our schools is that our schools are not keeping up and they're not evolving. Now, for me, somebody who grew up picketing the district offices for contracts, who was involved with this, it was a very eye-opening and awakening that I had to go through. And I had several discussions with my father and my stepmother about this prior, and they both agreed, again, coming from the public school system, that the public school systems need to become more competitive. We can't keep throwing money at it and expect it to get better, because the teachers, the people who need it the most are the teachers, aren't reaping the rewards of these additional fundings. We have top-heavy districts. We have school systems that the test scores are failing, and we just need to figure out, if we're going to make our public school systems more competitive, that we need to figure out how we're going to do that before we just start throwing money at them. The ESA program has already shown that there's great results. It gives parents a lot more freedom to deal with the children and offer those kids that are not always going to fit in the box that the public school systems try to put them in, to give them STEM, to give them special ed, to give them homeschooling if that's the choice. And with as politicized as our public school systems have become, it's no surprise to me why parents would like to have more to say about their children's education.
All right, thank you, Brian. Deborah, what plans would you have for fully funding education?
Well, golly. So the first thing that I would do is I want to point out that Arizona public schools are so far away from having money thrown at them that to make the argument that our public schools are not deserving of funding because they have failed to support our students is insulting. It's insulting to the students that it serves, and it's insulting to the teachers who work there. So the first thing I would do is
Deborah, this isn't a debate. If you
I'm not debating.
Okay.
I'm not debating. The first thing that I would do is I would call out the fact that the universal ESA voucher program was twice rejected by Arizona voters. Twice. Arizona voters said, no, we don't want that in our schools. We want to have fully funded public schools. And there are partisans at the state legislature who refuse to listen to voters, and they went ahead and they passed the ESA voucher program. And what we have seen in the 1 year of its operation is that it has cost the state $750,000. And the majority of the students who are taking advantage of that, or the families that are taking advantage of that, never sent their children to public schools in the first place. So the first thing that I would do is I would confront the reality that those two things are out of sync. And then we can start talking about where do we start putting additional dollars. And here's the thing, if you take public school dollars, public tax dollars that are for education, and you are not a public school, if you are a private or a religious school, and you take those public funds, you have just become a public school, and you should be held accountable and responsible for the exact same education requirements of accepting every student and holding those same requirements to standards to that. So I come at it from, and here's the thing. This is the number one issue that I hear from people at doors. Actually, I don't know if it's number one or number two, but it's really high up there. And across the board, when every school's child starts their day repeating the Pledge of Allegiance, and that Pledge of Allegiance ends with liberty and justice for all, there is no way we create the society that we want without a fully funded, robust public education system. And so I would approach the issue that way. I think there are probably, I don't know how many more people who are better at the ins and outs of the funding scheme to do that. But my approach to it would be, that is a foundation to the society we want to live in, and let's start there.
All right. Well, so let's talk about the housing shortage. What do you think of the legislature's progress so far on dealing with the housing shortage, Deborah?
You know, it's coming at it in a bunch of different ways, and housing isn't a one size fits. I don't know that housing is a one size fits all problem. We see that there is effort to make homelessness be a crime in some areas. I don't think that's a big issue in Glendale and Peoria, but perhaps I'm protected. And then you go all the way to the other side where rents in Maricopa County increased by 32%. I think I read just today that, you know, that's unsustainable. Nobody's income goes up 32%. Who's renting an apartment. And then you get to corporate ownership of rental housing and the use of private residential housing for vacation housing. All of those things compete. And I think we have to be honest about sometimes we want housing to do different things. On the one hand, we want it to be an investment, and this is going to be part of my portfolio in retirement. And on the other hand, we want entry-level housing for students and first-time job owner or workers. And I think we're conflicted about that. And I think, once again, it's something that I think we have to be really honest and confront when we get to the legislature.
Thank you, Deborah. Brian.
I am in total agreement with Deborah on this. It's there is not a one size fits all when it comes to the housing. We are in a really rough time. I look at my children and I look at what they're struggling with and being able to find places to live, housing. They don't get the same dream that I had. In 1996, I bought my first house for $99,000 at 39th Avenue and Cactus, and I had a $650 a month mortgage. That was affordable. That same house today is $495,000. The mortgage on it would be around $1,800 to $2,400, which a lot of these young families cannot afford. I do disagree about the there's a ton of homeless in our district, and it is a problem that we have to figure out how we're going to face, because the homeless has risen over 800% in the last 5 years in our district alone. And a lot of that has to do with the methadone clinics that are coming in, but that's a whole nother thing. But the housing situation, you have to look at how many different facets of housing. Like Deborah said, you have the Airbnbs, the short-term rentals, and you have how do we look at multifamily housing, and how much multifamily housing can we put into the district, and where do we put it, and how do we keep it from escalating to keep up with inflation, or escalating to allow businesses to still make a profit? So is there government's responsibility to put a cap on that? I honestly don't know. Until we get in there and have a chance to actually see what's going on in the back end, it's going to be very difficult for us to speak on this stuff, because we're kind of on the outside of it at this point. This is probably going to be one of the biggest challenges that we face as legislators, regardless of what side of the aisle we're on.
All right, thank you, Brian. Now we got about a minute and a half left. If you could each give us, about 45 seconds to a minute on why you should be elected to the legislature. Brian.
I'm very conservative in my thoughts and my opinions, but I believe in the people of our district. I believe in keeping this district safe. I wish to attack the issues that we have now, looking at the mental health shortages that we have in this state, which will help with some of the homelessness and the drug use that we have coming into and infecting our district. We have to look at water shortages. I know we didn't get a chance to discuss many of the other applications out there, but we have a lot of foreign-owned entities that are pumping our groundwater, and that's not going to be sustainable for the many years to come. And we have to look at, one of my other things is prison reform. We need to stop throwing people away. Arizona's Department of Corrections has become the #1 state employer in Arizona. And a lot of people don't know that. We warehouse people. We don't offer them trades. We don't offer them any skills. We don't offer them any reentry. We throw them back on the streets and we kind of throw them away. This all goes back to the mental health. It all goes back to the homeless. Everything is tied in together. And we need to look at the approach of being better people, being more God-fearing people, and doing as God wanted us to do, which is to lift our neighbors up and have them succeed. I'm running as a Republican in the House of Representatives for District 27, and I hope to earn your vote.
Thank you, Brian. Deborah, take us out.
Okie doke. I'm running to represent the voters in this district, and to that job, I bring 4 decades of public policy and public affairs experience at the federal, state, and local levels on a whole host of issues. I was never, ever the policy expert, but what I did do really well is I made sure the right people were in the room and the policy experts had the framework in which they could operate to come up with workable solutions, and then engaging stakeholders and community members and being a part of that process. And I hope to bring that same level of skill and expertise to the state legislature. Also, I would say that I commit to representing the voters of this district, and I don't always have to agree with them, but I will always trust them. And that's it.
All right, thank you. Thank you to Deborah Howard and Brian Morris. Best of luck to you both.
Thank you.
And we'll be coming back with Legislative District 28 in a couple of minutes. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back. You're watching Meet the Candidates, and we're here with a couple of Legislative District 28 candidates. We have Barbara Fike. She's a Republican who's seeking a seat in the House. Am I wrong? You're a Democrat?
Yes.
Okay, well.
This is a Republican.
then yeah, that I must have superimposed them or something. So, Susan, we have Susan Black, a Republican, also going for the House. So
Yes.
welcome. Sorry for my miscue there, and we'll get it right from here on out. And everybody will know once you start talking exactly where you come from. So can you just start out with a little bit about yourself and why you want to be elected? Barbara?
Sure. First, thank you, Arizona Capitol Times and Clean Elections for organizing this, and thank you anyone who's watching this live and you pulled away from the RNC convention. Yay, you! And thank you, Gary. You've been at this for 4 nights now, so you've been doing a great job. So thank you for sticking with us all. I am Barbara Fike. I am a second-generation native of Arizona. I have lived in the Northwest Valley my whole life, and I am a proud product of Arizona Public Schools, and I got my bachelor's degree and master's degree from NAU. I have been a teacher for 40 years in Northwest Valley districts. I've been married for 32 years to an architect here in town. I have 2 adult children that I'm very proud of, and 2 dogs and a cat that I question sometimes. When I was a teacher, I've taught English and American history and government and economics. And as a government teacher, I know really well how a government is supposed to work. I have not been involved in politics. Up till this point, I don't consider myself a politician. I consider myself an educator. But there's a lot of overlap in those 2 fields. I think the reason I'm running is that I'm not sure that the government is working the way it's supposed to be. I noticed a couple of years ago, kind of like Vic from 26 said, only the reverse, there were no Democrats on my ballot. There was a choice at the top of the ballot, but even with the congressional district, there were only Republicans on my ballot. I am a Democrat in a heavily leaning Republican district, but I still felt like there should be a choice on the ballot. I feel very strongly that way because without that, you have the election takes place with the primary. And like Susan's running against two other people. So the decision of who the Republican candidates are will be done in the primary. If I wasn't running, then those would be the only two that everyone in my district could vote for. And that disenfranchises the third of my district that's Democrats and the third of my district that's independents. And so I feel very strongly that there should be a choice on the ballot and that people deserve a choice. So when I got a call last November about would I be interested in running for the House of Representatives, I said, sure, that's an adventure I haven't had yet. So I'll go for it.
It's going to be an adventure if you get elected.
Yes.
Believe me. Susan?
Yes, well, thank you, Gary and Capital Times for hosting this. I appreciate the opportunity, and my Republican opponents have not chosen to join this. I feel like everyone needs to have a choice. I actually agree with Barbara on that. We should have a choice, and everyone should have that opportunity to vote Democrat or Republican. Our voice matters and our voice counts. And I basically, about me, I am Susan Black, and I'm running for State House of Representatives in LD 28. I stand for faith, family, and freedom. I'm your warrior candidate. I support our constitutional rights and biblical family values. I'm a wife of a military veteran, and I support our Second Amendment rights. My opponent has said that I do not, which is very comical. I am a mother of 4 beautiful daughters. All of them are grown. I have 8 grandchildren now, and one of my grandchildren is in the other room, so hopefully you won't have to hear her cry. My husband is watching her right now. I am a small business owner. I've been self-employed as a local real estate company. I've been self-employed for over 27 years. I understand the challenges that Arizona's face today with ESG, globalist agenda, the economy, and what we're dealing with in that. And I support fiscal restraint and responsible tax policies and regulatory reform. As a small business owner, this qualifies me to be a legislator because I deal with legalities every single day. And with that, during COVID, the reason why I'm running is because during COVID, during the shutdowns, I'm like, what is going on with our people? They're stomping all over our constitutional rights. And as a small business real estate company, the masking and the mandatory vaccines, and that should be a choice. That's unconstitutional, and that's where I saw our government going awry and thought I needed to take a stand, and that's what began my process of getting involved in politics. I'm not a politician. I am one of the people, and that's what our founding fathers intended, for one of the people to be involved in our political process. And I am a precinct committeeman. I'm a state committeeman. I am also a delegate of the National Federation of Republican Women. And the last session, I worked with ASRA, which is the Arizona Republican Assembly's legislative scorecard team. And with that, we were reading through the legislation and rating the bills. And we also would have a significant input to our legislators to suggest amendments and changes that should be made to make that legislation either more constitutional or more relevant to the people. And so I've already been working, fighting for the people, and I will continue to do that whenever I'm voted in. So Susan Black, Arizona House. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Susan. So we got about 7 minutes left, so I'd like to get a couple more questions in. So the governor just signed a $16.1 billion budget. What are your thoughts on the spending plan she just signed? Let's start with you, Susan.
Well, it's a bloated budget. I understand that they did make quite a few cuts in that. They had to cut straight across the board as far as 10% is what I had heard. And I believe that we have too much government and we should continue to cut and actually repeal some of the legislation that is in process and, continue to rein in the fiscal, I support fiscal restraint, rein in that budget, continue to go that direction, reining it in. We overspend, period.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Barbara?
I think that as an economics teacher, I know that when you are dealing with a budget, or you're dealing with fiscal policy, you either spend or cut in order to make things happen. And people like to spend and they don't like to cut. And it's really hard. Legislators have to be willing to cut spending wisely, but they also need to be willing to not cut revenue. We tend to want to say we only can fix it by cutting our spending and reining in our spending, but I think the flat tax has hurt our revenue stream over the last couple of years, and I think the budget was as good as it could have been. As an educator, I think the spending on the vouchers is way, way out of control. And that was a huge chunk of money that could have been reined in and wasn't. And so in a way, I agree. There are some things that can be reined in. We probably maybe just disagree on what those things should be.
All right, since you mentioned the vouchers, as a Democrat, do you want to just see some reform, some change, or do you want to eliminate them completely?
Well, when they first came out, I kind of really didn't like them at all because I foresaw that it was a little tiny loophole that was going to balloon. The original premise of having a way for special needs kids who couldn't get what they needed in their local school district if they were attending a public school to start with and couldn't get what they needed, to give them some extra money in order to get that, I can accept that. But what it has turned into is nothing near that. 75% of the people who are getting vouchers never intended to be in the public school in the first place. They already had their kids going to private schools. They were already doing homeschooling. And so it's just a money grab. Some of the money is going to the people who really need it and deserve it, maybe less than 25%, but that 75% should be reined in. There should be restrictions on it. There should be oversight. We shouldn't have people buying Lego sets or whatever. We shouldn't have, there should be clearer transparency about who is getting it and how they're using it for, how it's tied to a curriculum. We've got people who are, and people talking about Project 2025 is talking about a national school choice, where basically what happens is that enriches some people who just slap together some kind of curriculum and then get people to use their voucher money to buy it. And then you're just enriching people who aren't really aware of what should happen. I believe in professionalism. I believe we need to treat people, educators, police officers, all of these people who have been trained, we need to treat them as professionals and not tell them what to do and second guess them by taking funding away from them.
Thank you, Barbara. Susan, you think the empowerment scholarship accounts or the school vouchers are good as they are now, or what else could we do with those, for people who like school choice?
So, respectfully, I disagree with Barbara. I am a founding member of Adams Traditional Academy, which is a charter school founded on patriotism, back to basics, traditional education. There's over 800 students there today. I'm very proud of that accomplishment, and with high academic standards. And my experience, I experienced a great deal of frustration in the public school system over 28 years ago. We've been bouncing between 48th and 50th in the nation in our academic standards. And I looked for other options. And I definitely support the ESA program. It saves the taxpayers money because $7,000 versus almost $15,000 per student. That is a huge savings. And I support capitalism. So with a capitalist society, or government, people have the freedom to go get the best education that works for their child. And when my daughter 28 years ago entered into kindergarten, she learned one letter a week, and they lowered the academic standards to allow for the non-English speaking students to catch up. And my daughter already knew all her letters going in. And that's why I looked for a different alternative. And unfortunately, the public school system failed my child. Now, granted, I did put my kids in the public school for high school because I wanted them to be mainstreamed. But I definitely support the ESA program, the Empowerment Scholarship Accounts. I do not support frivolous spending, but there are definitely various learning styles that children have that they do not excel in a type of school learning environment where they're in rows with teachers and desks. And, some students don't excel in that. They need a different style of learning in order to, and Legos can be very interesting to help. I mean, sit down and put a Lego set together, and that reading the directions, and it can be challenging to learn all those types of ways to manipulate, and that can be a very good learning project for a child. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
A little bit long answer.
We're almost out of time, and
Okay.
so if each of you could give us 1 minute on why the voters should choose you. Susan, why don't you go ahead?
Well, you should choose me because I'm ultra conservative. I support biblical family values, and I support our constitutional rights. I am the voice of the people. My opponents have been in office for a number of years, and one of them in particular, and it's time for a change. I offer that change, and I will represent the voice of the people. So vote Susan Black. You can go to my website at susanblack4arizona.com.
Great, thank you. And Barbara?
I think I also would like to represent the voice of the people. Also, faith and family are important to me, but I think that the people are best represented by there are lots of different people out there with different viewpoints. And because I'm the only Democrat running for 2 seats in the House, and we don't have a Democrat running for the Senate in LD 28, I think if people vote for me, then we will have 1 Republican and 1 Democrat, and that's the best way to represent the voice of the people because we'll represent everyone.
All right, thank you very much. And good luck to both of you, Susan Black and Barbara Fike. And
Thank you.
We'll be coming back with our last group for the night, Legislative District 29. And we'll be back in 2 minutes. Thank you. This is Meet the Candidates, and this is our last group of candidates for this 4-day event. And I'd like to introduce Eric Stafford. He's a Democrat running for the Senate. And do we have the other candidate here, Tom Zitzura?
I'm up, but I don't have a video.
Okay, but you can hear us okay?
Yeah, hold on a moment.
Okay. I see something there. Well, let me just start with Eric while you work through that, Tom.
Okay.
Eric, tell us about yourself. Why do you want to be elected to the Senate?
Yeah, hey Gary, thank you guys so much for hosting us. I'm Eric Stafford. I'm 26 years old. I decided to run for Senate around August of last year, and until that point, I was registered independent. My family's for a long time been divided by politics, and I think a lot of young people in this day and age don't want to be tied to parties that they don't know the baggage behind from a long history of partisan politics. And obviously, you can't run as an independent in this state, so I did register for Democrat because that aligns more with my overall values. And born and raised in Goodyear, new to the political scene outside of high school, I went to a program called WestMech, which helped me get some experience in technical school. So I became an aviation maintenance technician, and then I went for machining for a little while outside of that. And so I had a lot of experience with blue collar work and experiencing the industry as it was. And I really wanted at some point to be an engineer and to work on like sustainability, work on like solar or something in the environmental sector. But I realized that scientists don't change policy. Scientists are not changing the world. They have all the information, and politicians still do not listen. So I decided to step up and actually, make the change that I want to see. Yeah.
Okay, great, Eric. And Tom, it's Tom Zitzura. Am I pronouncing it correctly? I thought I'd take a
I say
shot at it.
Tsura. That's good, Gary. You're close.
Okay, all right. So tell us about yourself. Tell us how you pronounce your name and why you want to be in the legislature in the House.
Okay, Gary. Yeah, something about myself. I've been here for about 24 years. My wife and I showed up here after I retired from the Navy, and never thought about joining into politics or going into politics until about 2018. And there was something that went on in the Republican legislature that just boiled my blood. And back then, I ran down to my Democratic Party and told them I wanted to run. So I ran once in 2018 for state rep in LD 13. And, if you don't mind, I'm just going to read a statement that I've written up. It'll tell you why I'm running. In my 72 years of life, I have personally experienced the social, financial, and health challenges that we as a society struggle with today. I empathize with all those affected. I am running for state representative to find the solutions that will give hope to Arizonans who are impacted by the same dilemmas that I have experienced. I have strong convictions about the issues that I am campaigning for in this election. I do not have all the answers. I have more questions than I have answers, but that is where the journey starts in resolving roadblocks to a prosperous and healthy Arizona society. So many roadblocks to dismantle that the Republican legislators have thrown up over the years. And that's basically why I'm running again. They've got some really prime snafus that they've caused, the Republican legislature, and I'm tired of it. We need some leadership in the House. We need to start doing what the people want. On several occasions, we've had referendums on education, and the Republican legislature has fought it every time, even to the Supreme Court. They denied the Supreme Court when the Supreme Court came down and said they needed to do something. So that's why I'm running.
All right, thank you, Tom.
Oh, and Gary,
yes,
if I may, I missed the part of the question about why I'm running. May I finish that? Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
So some of the major stuff that got me to run is we've seen the reproductive health care stuff and how popular that is with the general public, and how that doesn't align with the political environment. And I think it goes for a lot of things where we're seeing the legislature to overstep into our personal lives and not take us into consideration, just as we're seeing on the ballot, there's a ballot measure pushed by the legislature to remove our right to vote for judges. I don't think that's popular. I don't think that's good. And that has been in our Constitution for 111 years since our state has become a state. And so, and on top of that, independent voters are now one of the largest blocks in the state, and we are not seeing people have the same right to vote in every single election as their partisan counterparts. So I just see that there's a lot of differences, whether it be accessibility to education, public funding, helping parents with childcare, housing affordability. There are numerous, countless issues that are not being addressed adequately. And seeing it just continue to bounce back to like culture war issues instead of actually seeing stuff being put on the ballot or passed that are just wholesome, positive, and good for everybody instead of people who align with a certain team. That's it in a nutshell. I want to do this for people in our district and the whole state.
All right. So Tom, if you get elected, what's going to be your priorities? What's priority 1 and 2 when you get?
Okay, number one, we need to change the election process here in Arizona. I am for open, nonpartisan primaries and ranked choice voting. That's number one. Number two is women's unconditional freedom of choice. So with those two things in mind, I've got a number of other things with the public school systems. We need to fully fund the public school systems. And one of my biggest concerns, we're experiencing it right here in Litchfield Park. We just got a notice from Liberty Water. There was an article in the Arizona Republic by All Hands, and she explained why Liberty Water is having problems getting water to us, to people in their district. And they're a groundwater-based company. We get our water from the ground, and we're running out. They got to dig more wells. They're going to probably have to go deeper. I understand that they had a problem with one of their wells, but right now we can only water our plants and our gardens twice a week. And that is a big concern of mine. In my website, basically I am advocating that when we get into the legislature, what we need to do is start creating, or how should I say, initiating engineering assessments on how to start getting water brought into Arizona. My two ways of thinking about it is just what California is doing. Governor Newsom in California, because of our water problem, they're going to start building 19 different desalination plants. They're on the coast. We have to bring it in. We have Mexico, which is only about 3 hours. We're 3 hours from the Gulf, three and a half hours from the Gulf. We can do it there with the assistance of Mexico, and they get something out of it also. We can also go to California, but we are going to have to start bringing in water. I don't understand the thing about water. Let me rephrase that. I understand the thing about water rights. Well, what good is it to argue about a puddle of water that you're going to have here in the near future versus let's argue about bringing the water in to make sure we don't have just a puddle in our two Great Lakes. I don't know if with global warming, if anything's going to change with how much water we get here in Arizona. But the last two monsoons that I remember of significance were in 2014 and 2015. Since then, we haven't had it. So I believe that needs to be concerned for all citizens, all of us, all Arizonans here in Arizona.
All right, thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Eric, we got like 5 minutes left, so what are, so many issues, you listed off a bunch of them. What are your priorities if you get in the legislature?
So some of my major ones are education. Education is the foundation of every single American. There are so many kids who fall through the cracks between primary school and getting out of high school, and we're not addressing that. 94% of kids go to public public schools. We are seeing it further backslide because of things like the voucher program funneling money away from public schools. Public schools are public for a reason. They are our local community schools that are here to enrich people, to educate them. And when I was going to high school, I was a freshman entering into high school, they were removing the automotive program, something that I would have loved. And when I was in elementary school, I heard tellings that we were 48th in the state. Lo and behold, 20 years later, let's see how much it's changed. Now we're 49. So we're continuing to see a backslide. We're not seeing incentives for educators to continue working in this field. We're seeing a loss of educators in that field. Yeah, we're not seeing good benefits. We're seeing teachers pay out of pocket to teach. And I just think it's our teachers and our kids deserve better. Another one is housing. Something that I think my generation has kind of been told a lot is like, the American dream is real. You're going to be able to do whatever you want with your future. And then you see that working a full-time job out of high school, out of college, degrees don't mean the same thing they do anymore. Housing is completely out of reach for most people. When our grandparents' generation, a single worker could pay for a home and provide for a family. And it's so disenfranchising to see that no matter how hard I try and no matter what good work and good education that I got in the most honest and noble blue collar field or otherwise, it's not enough for any of us. And it's just so disappointing. It's a betrayal, and it hurts because all of us are working our butts off and we're seeing record profits in companies, but we're not seeing it come back home to roost in making our lives comfortable.
All right, Eric, so we got about 3 minutes left. If you each could, give us a minute and a half or so on why the voters of Legislative District 29 should elect you. Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, so I've been raised by a pretty conservative family, so I have the blessing of having a perspective on both sides and kind of seeing some of the silliness of how, like, my family, my friends' family have sacrificed their love and their relationships in favor of politics, social justice, all sorts of things that are not directly tied to their family. And so I want to guarantee to my constituents that I'm going to put our common sense values first instead of partisan ideologies and focus on things that are actually benefiting us and considering the nuances of such. I worked as an aviation maintenance technician. You need to know how to read and comprehend things like a manual and like a bill and make sure to consider all the nuances of such a thing. I also have a background in medicine, and so working as a vet technician, I've advocated for people who don't have voices, advocated for animals when money is tight, and standing up for people who didn't have a voice. And I want to do that in the Senate to represent everyone and hopefully give us a better shot at being able to afford good, healthy food, have a good life, and be able to go on vacations when we want to. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Tom?
Yeah, again, just got something here that I wrote down. I'm asking you to vote Democratic or Independent, and I will do what is in my power to stop the continued attacks by the Republican Freedom Caucus on our rights, our freedoms, our democracy, and the will of the Arizona voting majority. Let us end the stranglehold by a minority group in power who govern through deceit, hate, and fear-mongering, governing for their own personal agendas and financial gains. There are a couple other things that I would like to have said. One of the other issues that I would like to see in the next legislature is start public preschool system for all Arizona children. I'd also like to see that the towns and the cities have more autonomy to govern and resolve issues on their own, rather than having the state legislature, which the Republican state legislature has done for the longest time that I've been here. And one more time, I am all for open, nonpartisan primaries and ranked choice voting. Hopefully they will vote for me. I have a website up, and I thank you for the opportunity to be here. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Tom. And thank you both. Good luck on your races. And that's it, folks. That's 4 nights of legislative districts. We hit most of them. Some Some, we didn't get a chance to talk to them, but we hit most of the districts. And you got to hear a lot from these candidates, what they're about, what their stances are, and you should be a better informed voter. And I'd like to thank the Arizona Citizens Clean Elections Commission. They're our sponsor, and without them, we couldn't have done this. And I want to thank Phoenix Tech, who had 6 guys sitting here all week with me, and they made this possible as well. And so we're going to be, the Arizona Capital Times is going to be putting out a special candidates guide in this week's print edition of the Arizona Capital Times, and it'll be chock full of information about all the candidates that you saw and didn't see. So anyway, everybody get out and vote. Go get your little sticker, and thank you for joining us. Have a good night.
Thank you.